Nisai.
And I'm Del Walters. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki saying that the nation's parliament will meet just days from now. It is the first step toward forming a new government.
And John Kerry has warned Syria and Iran to stay out of Iraq, but it looks like Syria is ignoring that message. Libby Casey is in Washington for us. Libby, good morning. Is the announcement from Prime Minister Maliki about the upcoming parliament session what the international community wants to hear at this point?
Stephanie, like so much of this story, it's complicated. Yes, in short, Prime Minister Maliki is keeping his pledge to Secretary of State John Kerry to move ahead with the constitutional plan. So the new parliament will meet in just 5 days on July 1st. But here's the twist. Maliki essentially holds the power in that scenario, and his opponents and even some of his recent and former allies have called on him to broaden things out, to have a broader coalition that reaches across sectarian and ethnic divides. Now, yesterday, the Prime Minister rejected calls for forming a national unity coalition, and he said that would essentially be a breach of constitutional order.
The call for forming a national unity government, as they like to call it, is simply an attempt by some in the opposition to launch a coup against our political process in order to destroy it.
The question is, will the moves forward over the next week reach across some of these divisions?
Libby, also today, Prime Minister Maliki confirmed that Syrian warplanes have been attacking ISIL fighters in Iraq and that he welcomes that help. What has the U.S. been saying about such efforts?
Well, Secretary of State John Kerry has warned that this could exacerbate sectarian divisions, and he said nothing should be done to heighten the extremism or act as a flashpoint. But of course, what complicates this aspect of the story is a unique set of bedfellows. Iran, Syria, and the U.S. government are all interested in the same thing: avoiding regional war, tamping down ISIL, and keeping the Iraqi government in place. So even though we're hearing that from the U.S. government, there are some mutual motivations happening.
Right.
The big division, the big change is what would happen next, because everyone has very different ideas of where things would go from there.
And of course the U.S. itself has reportedly been considering airstrikes. Libby Casey for us in Washington. Libby, thank you.
And Stephanie, Jordan beefing up its border now with Iraq. Troops and helicopters are massing on the border there. They're trying to prevent any ISIL fighters from coming into the kingdom. Caroline Malone has that story from the Iraqi border.
There is definitely a strong Jordanian military presence at the Trebil border crossing into Iraq. But for the time being, things are working as usual. Trucks are passing through both from Iraq and from Jordan onto the Iraqi side. One difference that there does seem to be on the Jordan side, though, is the number of trucks passing through. We spoke to people in the nearby town of Rawashed a short time ago, and they've definitely noticed there are less trucks, less people coming into Iraq than there would be normally at this time of year.
There's a big difference in the past couple of weeks. The number of visitors coming from Iraq to Jordan is about 60 to 70% less. Normally we have 300 cars a day, but now only about 50.
Jordanians are concerned about the violence that's happening in Iraq, but in terms of their own safety, they're not particularly worried because there is a strong military presence both at the border and on some of the checkpoints that are on the road, the main highway from Amman to this Trebil crossing. They are obviously concerned about Iraqis and for their safety, and some Iraqis we spoke to as well in Jordan are hoping that things are obviously going to get resolved as soon as possible.
And that is Caroline Malone reporting from the Iraqi border with Jordan in Trebil. And coming up at 8:30, we're going to go live to Baghdad for the latest on ISIL's push toward the Iraqi capital.